back to the channel. We are talking about getting ready to participate in April's Camp Nano 2022. Now, in the previous video, I talked about step 1, deciding what to write. And I gave you some tips, tricks on how to generate ideas and then how to pick one idea from your list. Today, I'm going to be talking about step 2, deciding who you're writing about. So step 1, you got an idea on what your novel is, and I'm sure at that point you came up with who your characters were, at least your protagonist and antagonist. And so I want to talk today about how to flesh those characters out, how to put meat on the bones, so to speak, so that your characters end up being more realistic, more relatable, and more 3D, if you will, on the page. One thing I want to point out is that not all of your main characters, depending on the plot, the story idea that you have, not all of your main characters might need to be human. You could be writing a children's book and you're writing it from the perspective of a dog, or you're writing fantasy fiction and one of your lead characters is a plant. You could be writing about aliens. It could even be a concept, an idea, something that's not tangible, so to speak, right? Either way it goes, you need to know your characters inside and out. Now, not everything that you come up with, not everything that you find out about that character, not everything that you know about that character is going to appear on the page, but the better you know your character, the better you can write how they're going to deal with the situations that they face throughout your novel. Some of the key things you need to know about your character. Of course, you want to give them a backstory. If they're human, what was their family life like? Are they an only child? Are their parents still alive? Are their parents divorced, living together? How old is your character? What kinds of food do they like? What don't they like? Do they have allergies? And there's all kinds of things. Do they like cats, dogs, whatever? There's all kinds of basically just background information that you need to know about your character. One of the things that I recommend is that if you're like me, the characters are talking to you regardless. And so there's a lot that they're already telling you about themselves as you go through this process. If you're not, if you prefer to kind of have everything down on a piece of paper that you can refer back to, piece of paper, file, digital, whatever, if you prefer to have a full-on character sketch, then one of the things I recommend is that you interview your character. So you start from the beginning. What is it that you think is important for you to know about this character? And then just start asking those questions. As I said, their backstory, family history, likes, dislikes, what's their favorite color, when's their birthday, were they maybe in a storm as a little kid, and so they've developed kind of a fear of lightning or thunder, those kinds of things, right? So you sit down, you interview your character, and you write those answers out, you log those answers, and then that becomes your character sketch, your sheet. I recommend that you do this for, of course, all of your main characters. So your protagonist, your antagonist, and then at least the second tier supporting characters, those that are going to be in the story to support these two the most. You're going to have side characters that, there might be somebody, the owner of the grocery store down the street, and there's going to be just limited interaction. That person's only going to appear in 1 or 2 sections, so you may not need to develop as much of a backstory for them as your main characters. So have your character sketches limited to just your 2 main characters, protagonist, antagonist, and then the characters most immediately associated with them that are going to spend a lot of time providing support throughout the novel. I find it's sometimes fun and helpful to go through and find images to associate with your character. Now, whether it's a full-on look, for example, I have a character and the person that comes to mind, the real life person that comes to mind that I think embodies this character is the actress Erica Alexander. I don't know if those of you watching this are old enough to remember Living Single. But anyway, she played Max, the spunky lawyer, and it was something about her look that I associated with this one particular character. And so I used her image when I was doing my character sketches. Just something fun to add to your file, your sheet, however you're doing it. Just something fun to add that, again, as you're writing, gives you visual clues on what to write, how to write about that character. Now, side note, a lot of why you want this backstory, a lot of why you want to know this character so well is that there are going to be situations in your book, in your story, throughout the plot, where you're going to need to show the reader that character's emotional state. And as opposed to saying he or she was nervous when they heard the loud bang, if you understand that that character, when they were, say, 12, was involved in a situation where there was a gunshot or, some traumatic event around a loud noise, then instead of saying he or she was nervous when they heard the loud bang, you would write something a little more descriptive about how they look, right? So you're saying things, or you're writing, the character jumped, the character's hand shook when they heard the noise. You're going to give them, and it doesn't have to be, again, their hand shook. You're going to describe the situation. Maybe another character observes that after the loud noise, which they understood just to be a car door slamming, they're going to observe that character, and now that character is shaking, or that character is near tears, or that character is suddenly tense or backed up against the wall. There's going to be some kind of action that you can describe to explain that character's emotional state. That's not just she was nervous, he was afraid, and so on. I like to describe that style of writing, that style of showing, not telling, as the difference between reading a description of rain in a scientific journal versus reading a description of rain in a poem. They're going to be two very different styles of writing. And if you know your character inside and out, you're going to be able to deliver a more poetic, lyrical showing of that character's emotional state versus a clinical, dry, scientific telling of how they feel. So that's going to do it for step 2, deciding who you're writing about. Hopefully you're enjoying the series so far. You'll be sure to tune in next week as we talk about step 3, deciding when to write. Because let's be honest, you're not going to have a finished novel if you don't put words to page. And so step 3, we're going to talk about how to develop a writing schedule and determining what your word count for the day needs to be. So you know the drill. I'm trying to be world renowned, so I need for you to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. And again, be sure you come back next week. Take care, and we'll see you.